understand. Starting right now for us.
Yes. Where do you?
Good evening and welcome to the Top 25 Rundown presented by the Sportscast. Today is October 18, 2023. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all your channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, and Apple Podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. It'll help us out tremendously. We are also on DAB Digital Radio. You can listen to us on your smart speaker, play Sportscast. Visit us on the sportscast.net. Also follow us on Twitter, Sportscast1, and check out our app, the Sportscast, in the iOS App Store. Hello, my name is Alan West. Welcome to another edition of Top 25 Rundown. I am joined by the author of the Turner Cast, Mr. Tyler Turner. How are we doing, sir?
Good, man. How you doing?
All right. So last week we both did pretty good. Now you're only up by one now for the standings.
I did good last week.
I think you got 8 out of 15.
That's good.
That's not bad.
It's my it's my worst week of my recent ones, but yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, no, I caught up to you. Almost caught up to you barely, but because last week
I gave you advice how to do it, and you listened, and you actually won. If you would have kept on doing things your way, you would have not.
You feel better?
Helped you out.
Yeah, but you know what? We'll do the same thing this week, but we got Florida State. They won 41-3 over Syracuse. Michigan won 52-7 over Indiana. I called that one, so because that was the 33.5 points. When we talked about that last week. Ohio State beat Purdue 41-7. Alabama beat Arkansas 24-21. Georgia beat Vanderbilt 37-20. Texas A&M lost to Tennessee 20-13. Oklahoma State beat Kansas 39-32. Oregon and Washington for a game for the ages last week, 36-33. Oregon, we'll get to that in 1 minute. Pittsburgh and Louisville, 38-21. LSU and Auburn. LSU beat Auburn 48-18. Arizona destroyed Washington State 44-6. Missouri beat Kentucky 38-21. North Carolina beat Miami 41-31. Oregon State beat UCLA 36-24. And Notre Dame beat USC 48-20. So that game last week, Oregon and Washington, the battle of the unbeatens. That was a heck of a close game, even though I felt bad because I was watching the end of it. If Bo Nix, how they went for it on 4th down, seemed like they lost all their momentum when that happened near the end of the game. Is that fair?
Ask that question again.
Okay, so with just right before Washington got their game-winning drive, when Oregon was going for it on 4th down.
Okay.
It felt like when they didn't get that, like they lost all the momentum that they had right then, just because you could tell Washington was going to have a chance to do something.
Okay, so you originally said Bo Nix. So are you just talking about the 4th down there? They didn't get it?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you either get it or you don't. So they didn't get it, and Washington got the ball back and were able to score. So yeah, if they get it, then the game's over. I think. I believe Washington like one timeout, but Oregon could have theoretically run the clock down to like I think it was like 2 minutes left. So they would have been able to run it down to like they ran 3 plays. They could have run it down to like 30 seconds, and probably Washington wouldn't have had enough time. So basically, the game would have pretty much been over. Even though Michael Penix and those wide receivers, shoot, 30 seconds. I mean, you just never know. Pretty good wide receivers, really good quarterback. I mean, but yeah, they would have been able to get that for fourth down. You said something originally about Bo Nix. I don't think Bo Nix, like he didn't. There really wasn't a play there. He scrambled outside. I don't know what they're trying to run, but there wasn't a whole lot he could do other than, I guess he could have tried to run there, but I don't think he would have gotten anywhere because he had people on his heels. And there was no one open. It was a weird play call. So play call could have been better.
Yeah, because it seemed like when he was throwing the ball, there were 2 receivers in the area, but
It
it,
just wasn't. Yeah, there wasn't anyone open.
yeah,
He could
I
have.
mean,
He could have tried to thrown it into coverage, and I guess an interception is the same as not getting it on fourth down. But also, if a guy picks it off, there's always possibility they take it back. I don't know. But yeah, they didn't convert, and Washington did, but Oregon went all the way down the field, had a pretty easy field goal. I mean, I've got college kickers on scholarship should hit that field goal. So, a lot of people aren't mentioning that. That was pretty lousy kick for a guy that's a 5th-year starter. Like, pretty pathetic. Like, I hope he was made to walk home. I mean, he doesn't have any other job. He's a lousy kickoff guy. Kicked the ball off and out of bounds like earlier in the game. So the only thing he really is good is a consistent field goal kicker and extra point guy, and he didn't do that. So sorry, I don't have a lot of tolerance for lousy kickers. They literally have nothing else to do.
we dealt with that at Liberty too. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I just when kickers aren't good, it's like you get a scholarship to do nothing else but kick. When you can't punt and you can't kick, and that's all you're doing, that's literally what you're given a scholarship to do. You get a free education to do that. You don't have to practice as hard during practice. You're a boob. Sorry. It's like a 40-yard kick for a 5th-year senior. He's had game-winning kick. He actually kicked a game-winning kick against Texas Tech earlier in the year. Now that was like really short. It was like 28, but still, I mean, it was a 42 like straight away. It was not a tough kick, but he missed it, and Oregon lost. So tough loss. Oregon, I thought was a little better team throughout in the game. If you look at statistics, they had more yards per play, had the ball longer, had more plays, had won the turnover battle. You'd think they won, but somehow lost. So good news is they went out and play Washington again and beat them. They probably are in the playoff. So but they have no margin for error now. They can't lose any other games. And they have a couple other decently tough games.
that's true. I mean, that Notre Dame and USC game, you kind of saw that coming because,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know about that bad.
well,
I thought Notre Dame could win, but Notre Dame didn't look exactly great the week before in a loss to Louisville. So actually, I wasn't totally sure how the game was going to go, but my gosh, USC. I don't know.
I didn't
They're
think
not
it was
very
gonna
good.
be.
They're not very good right now. I don't know what's up with them. They could lose. I don't know. They don't look good to me. They're not doing really anything that well. Their offense is not even playing that well now. Their defense is terrible. I don't know. They don't seem like a very good team.
I'll just have to see how it goes the rest of the year. But it just against Notre Dame, their defense just really showed up and made Caleb Williams' life hell. Basically, it just seemed like.
Yeah, like I said, their USC was supposed to be their offense. The last couple weeks I've seen their offense. I mean, they're not protecting the quarterback. They're not running the ball that effectively.
Mhm.
I don't think his weapons are quite as good as they were last year. They're just not as good. They were a better team last year. That was a better USC team. This year, they're
Oh
just.
yeah,
Is Lincoln Riley out? Is he heading to the NFL? I mean, it's just an oddly marginal team for having a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that came back. You have top 10 baseline roster talent.
Mhm.
You'd think that they would just be better, but they look kind of like USC did in the Clay Helton days.
That's true. That is true. Georgia was able to beat Vanderbilt, but Brock Bowers got hurt. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go for them because in some ways he's been their entire offense at times. Because sure, yeah, let me rephrase. Their running game has been okay, but for the passing game, you haven't really seen the wide receivers show up. You've seen him show up a lot more than them. So when he got hurt, they were able to overcome that, but they still got some pretty big games coming up that I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I am too.
Do you want to start doing picks for this coming week?
Sure.
I have not even looked at what's coming up, so let's see. The Saturday we have noon on CBS. You have number 22 Air Force going against Navy.
Air Force.
Yeah. All right. Then the game after that, Saturday noon at Fox. You got number 3 Ohio State going against number 7 Penn State. Ohio State's a 4.5 point favorite. I got my Buckeyes, honestly. Every time that they played a team this year that's been undefeated, they pulled it out. It hasn't always been easy, but they've won every game where they faced off against an undefeated team.
Have you ever picked against Ohio State?
No,
Look
one
it
day
up.
it'll happen though, but not today.
I think Ohio State might win, but I think I'm gonna have Penn State cover. I think it's like a 2-3 point win either way. I actually don't know who wins. I don't
Okay.
think either team is amazing on offense. I think they both have very good defenses.
Yeah, that's going to be the main thing. And then we're they're waiting to hear if Travion Henderson and or think Chip Trainum. They're trying to find out if they're both of those players are going to play this week because Henderson was held out last week against Purdue. So we'll see about that. We have UCF going against Oklahoma at 12 noon on ABC. Oklahoma's a 19.5 point favorite. I think Oklahoma's going to win. I don't think UCF is going to cover though, just because Oklahoma likes to run up the score.
Um, Oklahoma was off. Sorry, I'm echoing. Oklahoma was off last week,
Hmm.
and they just came off their last victory was over Texas, which is that really thrilling game. This kind of just feels like a spot where they win the game, but they're not amazing, like a 31-21 type victory.
Okay, so you think
So
UCF will
I
cover?
think they cover. It just feels like a weird spot for them to go out and blow them out. Maybe they do, but I think it's like a 31-21 victory.
Okay. Next on 3:30 ESPN, we have Oklahoma State going against West Virginia. West Virginia's a 3.5 point favorite. Who you got?
I think actually Oklahoma State has kind of turned it around. They're playing a lot better with victories over Kansas State and Kansas. It is at West Virginia, but I think Oklahoma State actually wins and covers, obviously.
Uh, I do think Oklahoma State's going to win and cover. And speaking of somebody who is pretty good at covering, we got jumping in right now, Mr. Bob Alvis. How we doing, sir?
We're awesome. How are you?
Not too bad. Me and Tyler making our picks. I'll get you and me.
Nice seeing you last night, Bob.
Wasn't it such a moment? I mean, I felt like it should have been on national television. That just our meeting, not the game, but just our meeting.
It was a good game too, right?
Better than it should have been.
They make it interesting at home. I guess they're trying to give people their money's worth.
I think this midweek stuff needs to stop because it's almost like they're not ready. Oh, I know. No, I understand why it happened.
But they played very well against Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I wasn't at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I get where you're going. But, I mean, like, the last 2 weeks or the last 2 home games, it's almost like they haven't been ready. And it doesn't –
Oddly enough, I don't think they've looked amazing any home game this year. Like even
I missed the second one. The game against Bowling Green looked so bad.
Yeah, they turned the ball over like 4 times in the first half. If they hadn't turned the ball over so much, I mean, it was pretty close when it came to yards per play and yards. And then Mexico State, that was the best home game that Liberty looked, but they've looked best against Buffalo, against FIU, and against Jacksonville State, and they're all road games.
The pressure of playing in Lynchburg, it affects all of us.
They must just be locked in the whole time, and they're not locked in the whole time. But we shouldn't complain. I mean, people shouldn't be negative. Let's be honest. They're 7-0.
Yep.
There's like hardly any undefeated teams in college football. I mean, there's a decent chance if they can just be consistent that they finish 12-0, 13-0.
And don't get the greatest bowl that you would expect a non-group of 5. Why this was put in? This is not the Cincinnati effect from a few years ago.
We were talking about yesterday in the pregame show. If they finish 13-0, they give themselves a chance to make a New Year's 6.
I'll go no on that one, but
But you only have 2 group of 5 teams in the top 25, and they're both at the back end. And if Air Force and Tulane lose, and so they both have a couple losses, and Liberty finishes undefeated.
I think the schedule hurts you personally, but
I agree. But like, let's say Air Force is 10-2, Fresno State's 10-2, Tulane's 10-2, and then you got a 12-0, 12-0 or 13-0.
Yep.
13-0 is better than 10-2. So there's a possibility. I mean, yes, I would say they need people to lose, but if they keep winning,
if they just had one solid game on that schedule.
Yeah, the group of 5, I mean, not one Power 5 hurts them.
Even if they had Virginia Tech, who they played last year. Beating Virginia Tech this year would look better.
Arkansas.
Well, last year they had a bunch. They had BYU, they had Virginia Tech, they had Arkansas. Didn't they have someone else? They had 3 or 4 Power 5.
I want to say they did.
And then the year before that, they had like 3 or 4. So they've for the most part.
Didn't you play Ole Miss?
Yep. And
I think that's been within the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep, and he played Wake Forest. They played 4 last year.
Yeah,
they played They played Wake Forest. So hopefully next year they don't. They have the same lousy schedule. But hopefully the years after that, when they move on to the ACC.
I think the best team you've got on this year's schedule, unless I'm missing somebody, is ODU.
Yeah, and they're not.
And I mean, that's not wonderful, but still, I mean, if
probably
ODU,
their toughest game. Well, Western Kentucky might be their toughest game left.
ODU have played 2 Power 5s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, they're UVA and Virginia Tech, but I mean,
did they beat either one?
They beat UVA.
Oh, they did.
I think
they did.
Didn't they beat UVA?
Yeah, I think so.
So
let me look it up.
But the whole point of the story is there's not a big non-conference game for the Flames. You've got to take care of your business.
They did announce today that Jamie Chadwell is on the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year nominee.
You know, I was
We'll
thinking
see
about
what
that.
happens.
UVA and Old Dominion didn't play.
Did not?
No.
No. I get confused by all these.
James Madison and UVA did.
Yeah.
And James Madison beat them.
I get confused
Yeah.
by these 2-word schools in Virginia.
See, James Madison would have a chance at a New
Yeah.
Year's Six, but they don't.
They're not eligible.
Yeah, they're not eligible.
And our attorney general has written letters to try to get JMU in a bowl game this year
Because he's a JMU grad.
because there's not much else to do apparently right now in legislature except for to try to get JMU into a bowl game.
Well, he's not a legislator.
Oh, what is he?
He's an executive.
Hmm.
Attorney General's executive branch.
My bad.
he
He's more of a legislator than I am. So
was a legislator. He was a senator.
well, you know, one more thing before
I work in politics, right? Or do
yeah,
you
I know,
not? Okay.
I've heard rumors. So one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick is, you know, I thought about Chadwell last night while I was at the game, not like in a weird way or anything, but you know, you look at the two coaches that were rumored for big jobs at one point around the same time were Chadwell and Billy Napier. I don't think it's worked out well for Billy Napier at this point.
It's worked out good for Chadwell.
It's worked out great for Chadwell. And, you know, if Chadwell had taken, I almost wonder if Chadwell had taken a quote unquote big job, P5, would the same thing be happening to him that's happening to Billy Napier?
What is Alan doing? Are you eating? Are you dipping or eating? Yeah, you never know. Who is Jimmy Chadwell going to be the next head coach for?
Liberty? I don't think he moves on.
Want to bet on that one?
No, I don't gamble. But I mean, I think there's a better shot of him staying at Liberty than the predecessor.
So,
I
agree. I agree with that, but I still think in a couple of years, if a job like Tennessee or a job like North Carolina opens up,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It depends. I mean, right now, if you are a P5, are you in love with Jamie Chadwell?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a great coach.
I'm not saying he's bad, but I'm just saying
he's done nothing but won
against people he's supposed to win against.
Still.
So, I mean, I just feel
he's
like
still playing at a group of 5 level against teams that are in the same conference, and he's beaten them all.
But I feel like you might have that. He hasn't done it on a big level bias when it comes to a P5 job, because Billy Napier is not helping anybody. And I'm just using him as an example. I'm sure there are others, but people that went from smaller group of 5 conferences to a P5, I don't think they help if they don't succeed.
Well, but a job like Florida's tough. I mean, that's SEC. Like if he jumped into, I mean, that'd be an argument against Tennessee. But if he jumped into like a rebuilding situation, then yeah, maybe I wouldn't recommend it for him. But if he jumped into like after, sorry, I need a message. But if he jumped into a position where someone just left because, you know,
they're 80 years old.
Well, like Mac Brown,
yeah,
who's almost 80, who's
right.
who might just be like, hey, I'm old, and you know, right. Drake May's gone, and I'm like, don't want to hang around for us to lose games. But left, it's pretty decent culture and a program and recruits. That'd be tempting.
I just don't. I think that
he's going to make more money and he has a chance to compete for a national title.
Yeah, but how much more money? I mean, are we going to start making at some point?
Oh, he'll make significant amount more.
I think Liberty could raise him. I mean, if it gets to a money thing, he's going to.
I mean, Liberty's as competitive as you can get in the group of 5 for sure. What's going on?
I don't know.
What's happening with Bob?
He just wanted to see his Yankees shirt, so that's what his Yankees sweater. That's what it was. So,
but I can't stay up that late, so we might need to finish these. Sorry, Bob, you came a little
towards my bad.
Back end. That's fine. We forgive you. Do you forgive Alan?
Of course. Bob already knows that.
Why don't you ask him all the ones you asked me, and then we've already answered. So we could tell
Yeah,
him
and
our
then
answers.
worst case,
We could tell him our answers, I guess.
well, then in worst case, after you head out, me and him will go over some of them a little more. But number one is Air Force and Navy. Air Force is a 10.5 point favorite.
Give me Air Force
Yep.
both ways.
Ditto.
All right. Yep. That's for all of us. Then the next game is Ohio State going against Penn State. Ohio State's a 4.5 point favorite.
Ohio State wins. Penn State covers.
Ditto.
All right. Then the next one is
Allen thinks Ohio State destroys them.
I'm sure he did. Spread was probably been 60 now. I'm taking Ohio State.
I agree. Yeah, I just want them
hey, I
to give.
took
I want them to give
last
like
week
some
I took
ridiculous
Michigan with a
spread to see.
33.5 point spread, and I got that. So
Like they could be favored by like 100 over Georgia at Georgia, and you would still somehow.
I don't know. That would be a little tough. If it was 100, that'd be tough. But in the 30s, I'm not as worried.
Your excuse
Anyway,
would be Georgia hasn't covered a game this year,
I know.
even though they have.
But next game is Oklahoma going against UCF. Oklahoma's a 19.5 point favorite.
I'm on the Sooner train. Give me Oklahoma, probably to do both.
Yes, sir.
I was UCF cover, but yes, I think Oklahoma would win.
Next game is Oklahoma State going against West Virginia. Oklahoma State is a 3.5 point dog.
Give me WVU.
All right.
Who did you pick in that one, Alan?
I picked Oklahoma State to win and cover.
Okay, now we're back to
Yep.
all of us.
Next game we have is at 3:30 on CBS. Number 11 Alabama going against number 17 Tennessee. Bama's a 9.5 point favorite.
Roll Tide.
Tennessee covers. I think Alabama will win the game. I wish they really could have you pick the winner and the spread. It's one thing I'd correct about this.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think Tennessee's going to cover, even if
Nice.
Bama does win. Next game we have 3:30 on NBC. Number 24 Iowa going against Minnesota. Iowa's a 4.5 point favorite.
I got Minnesota covering, Iowa winning.
I guess I go Iowa like 24-17. That's a weird spread.
Let's say the quarterback's out and their tight end Eric All they just announced he's out for the season.
Well, that's not great. They don't have any
So-
offense to begin with.
Pretty much. So
For now, I'll say Iowa, but we'll see.
I'm gonna say Minnesota covers, but Iowa wins.
So you're
Just
copying
because
me.
I don't trust Iowa's offense. Yeah, pretty much, Bob. Hey, this time you had it right. So you know what? If it's right, I'm gonna copy you. How about that?
I'll take it.
Okay. Next game we have 3:30 on SEC Network. We have Missouri going against South Carolina, and we get to see Shane Beamer walk around with his broken foot. Missouri is a 6.5 point favorite.
Upset of the week. Missouri has a letdown after the Kentucky game. Gamecocks go in and win and cover.
Missouri. I think South Carolina's not good. They're legitimately not a good football team.
I'm gonna pick South Carolina to cover. I still
Didn't you pick
think
South
Missouri is
Carolina to go
probably
to
gonna win.
the SEC final?
Exactly, but still,
How did
needless to
that
say,
work
I'm in
out?
for a rude awakening.
They're absolutely. They're like the worst team in this. They're only better than Vanderbilt.
Yeah, hey, you know what? I thought Spencer
You
Rattler was going to be
should
more of a leader.
You should owe us money just for that horrible pick.
No. You should owe us money because you thought that even though we both picked Oregon to win, After watching how they imploded at the end, come on, man.
What?
I didn't pick Oregon to win, by the way. Just want to go on record.
I remember, yes, you were the only one that got points for that game. I was a little jealous of that.
I
but
should pay
congratulations.
you for what?
Oregon imploding, which I don't think there was an implosion that I saw.
There was not an implosion.
Eh.
It was a really close game.
Washington exploded.
It wasn't remotely an implosion. It was a close game. What a weird take.
Do you think that that cost Bo Nix the Heisman Trophy?
No. It's one game they lost, and it was on the road against a top 5 team. That they can come
Yeah.
back and beat them to win the conference.
I personally thought Dan Lanning had a weird call, though. I think
maybe-
it was fourth down.
I didn't love the play call.
Right.
Going for it was fine.
Well, no, the call.
I just didn't like the sprint out
Yeah.
and throw to 2 receivers.
Right.
I wish they would have done something just like, I don't know, a fly to Franklin. He'd been beating the D back the whole game.
But I'll give Washington credit. I thought Washington stepped it up at the end. Give them credit.
Yeah, man, pretty good.
To me, it's more Washington won than Oregon lost.
Well, Oregon did miss the field goal at the end, right? See, that was the thing. People were talking about Lanning. I'm like, how about the kicker that misses a 40-yard field goal?
See, I think field goals at any level in college for most kickers are still sketch. I mean, I'm not going to
I agree. Well, they had to go for it because, otherwise it'd be a Hail Mary.
But I'm not going to say that kid's a choker because he missed a 40-yarder.
He's a 5th-year senior. I think he's a choker.
The kid from Clemson
I think he
missed
should be.
20-yarder.
Now that guy's a major choker. Shouldn't even be allowed in the building. They have no other job. They get a scholarship. I was going on about it beforehand. They get a scholarship and they have nothing else to do but kick a ball through a goalpost. Do it.
Some of us are hard on kickers.
We had to get off the subject. We weren't even talking about. I don't even know how Oregon's brought up.
Well, I'm taking Oregon, by the way.
Mr. South Carolina.
I'll take Oregon to roll over Washington State.
I do think
they're
Oregon,
an 18.5-point favorite.
Yep.
That's a huge spread. Now Washington State did lose by 38. Yeah, I guess I go Oregon because Washington State looked so horrible last week. But I wouldn't be shocked if this is more of like a 14-point victory. But we'll see. What are you picking,
This is the
Alan?
kicker. Well, hold on. I'm looking at the injury report. It says the kicker's out for an undisclosed injury.
Who?
The Oregon kicker.
Good.
I'm going to say Washington State's going to cover, even if Oregon wins. I just get this feeling, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, you're getting those feelings, huh? Kind of like that feeling with South Carolina.
Yeah, well, kind of how that last week I got 10 out of 15. So yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. Anyway, moving on. 7 o'clock on ESPN, we have Oregon, Ole Miss going against Auburn. Yep, see, you got me thinking of Oregon again, Tyler. Ole Miss is a 6.5-point favorite.
I'll take Auburn.
Yeah, I'll take Auburn too. I actually think they win.
I don't think Ole Miss is that good.
I don't either.
I don't.
They have a decent offense. They're a pretty good quarterback.
Well, they weren't in admission at Alabama because when they played Alabama, I thought they looked bad. And I didn't think Alabama looked good either.
They did look good against LSU, but LSU's defense isn't that good. And it was at home. This is on the road. Yeah, I go Auburn.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Auburn as well.
Jeez, look at us all Auburnish.
All 3 people are going against the number 13th ranked team in the country.
Because they're not the number 13th ranked team. Overranked SEC team.
Yeah. Next game, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. We have Kansas State going against TCU. Kansas State's a 7.5-point favorite.
TCU covers, K-State wins.
Yeah, same.
Only because I don't want to be the same this time. I'm gonna say K-State wins outright.
Ooh.
Okay.
Rebel.
Next game, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. We have Duke going against Florida State. Florida State's a 13.5-point favorite.
If Riley Leonard was playing in this game, this is a different game. He's not.
Well, he's questionable right now.
He's not. He had a high ankle sprain. Florida State.
I think Florida State still needs that statement game, and I think this is a week.
Without
You
Riley,
could argue that 41-3
I wouldn't say without Riley Leonard, that's a statement game.
You could argue 41-3 against Syracuse was a statement, but it's Syracuse at the same time.
Yeah, they're blind.
I mean, so
Yeah.
I'm going the Noles covering and winning.
I think Duke's gonna cover.
Ooh.
I'm gonna try that. And next game is Michigan going against Michigan State. Michigan is a 24.5-point favorite.
Michigan wins. The Fighting Mel Tuckers, who's not there anymore.
Fighting Mel Tucker less.
I hate taking 24.5 on the road. I mean, I can't.
That's a lot.
I
But
can't
Michigan
do it.
State is terrible.
And I could be wrong 100% on this one. Michigan could win by 60, but I just can't take 24.5 on the road. So Michigan wins, Michigan State covers.
I normally wouldn't, but I'm sorry, Michigan. Every time I'm like, oh, Michigan's not going to cover that spread. They did. Michigan's not going to cover that spread. They did. Michigan.
Don't apologize for me. I have no interest in Michigan State. I just don't think the number is what gets me.
Well, last week Michigan had a 33.5-point one that I took, and they covered that. So that's why I got Michigan as well in this one. Next game, 8 o'clock on the ACC network, we have Miami going against Clemson. Clemson is a 2.5-point favorite.
I would have never thought this would have been an ACC network game, by the way.
I know. Ouch. Tells you
Yeah.
how far Mario Cristobal's fallen. And Dabo Sweeney.
I took Clemson, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong.
This is totally a game where Mario Cristobal gets them up at home and wins.
You know, I watched them for the first half last week against UNC. And when you have your defensive coordinator getting an unsportsmanlike penalty, that's not good. In all fairness, the officiating crew was about the same crew I saw last night. They were bad. Both sides. But
Yeah,
still,
last night
was not good.
it was terrible.
I think they
That
called
fumble,
six unsportsmanlike calls too.
Liberty fumbled.
Hmm.
The guy picked it up and would have run it for a touchdown. They whistled the ball dead and said it wasn't a fumble. Anyways, yeah, I think Miami.
I got Miami as well.
Ooh,
Then we have
fighting Santiago Leon.
no, that's you. But anyway, I think that Cristobal needs to win, and like you said, Miami at home. I think that they're gonna show up this time. That, and I mean, Davo, just how he has been this year, how the team's been. I don't trust that they're as unbeatable as they have been in years past.
So what you're saying is they're not Clemson-ish.
Yes, they're not the former Clemson-ish. So, all right, next game we have 10:30 on ESPN. We have UCLA going against Stanford. UCLA is a 16.5-point favorite.
I'll be asleep and I really don't care, so I'll go Stanford to do both. Why not?
And if you think about it, Stanford plays pretty good after people go to sleep. Look what they did against Colorado a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels like one of those sleepy kind of like UCLA wins, but it's like 31-21. I'm gonna go Stanford covers.
I'm doing the same thing just
Ooh.
because
We're feeling Stanford.
Well, I mean, the
Stanford,
thing was last
Stanford,
Saturday,
Stanford.
I was watching that game and I fell asleep. But when I fell asleep, it was 29-12 Colorado. And so I fell asleep. I'm like, okay, they're gonna win. Then I woke up and I was like, oh crap, what happened? Very nice, sir. Very nice.
I could
I
because
was
it's like foggy back here. Can you see it?
Now I can see it. Because before I couldn't, I was waiting for it to be unfoggy. All right, the
Sorry,
last game
super mature behavior. Go ahead.
it's all good. The final game we have 8 o'clock on Fox.
Oh my gosh.
Utah going against USC. This is a pretty good Pac-12 matchup.
That game's at
Uh,
wait, that's an early game kind of on the West Coast.
Yep, it's at Los Angeles too,
Yeah.
and USC is a 6.5 point favorite.
Ooh.
Feels more like a pick 'em to me, honestly.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I got USC winning, Utah covering.
USC looks horrible, but Utah has no offense. And they just lost another offensive player. So they're like missing all their best players in offense, and they're not that good even when they have them. So how's Utah going to score? But USC's bad, and Utah is pretty good defensively. I don't know.
USC's defense could stop an invisible.
I know. This is okay. I'm gonna switch on the run here. I'm gonna say Utah covers. They might win. I think it's gonna be a bad game. I think it's gonna be like a 21-17. I don't know. It's so weird because USC's defense is horrible. Utah's offense is horrible. Utah's a good defense. USC did have a good offense, but they're not looking really good right now. I don't know.
Did I see something come out today that I think it was like the halfway point of college football midseason team, and Caleb Williams wasn't even nominated?
Don't surprise me. I mean, he was
pick in the NFL.
I mean, as he will be. I mean,
Yeah.
he obviously was the Heisman Trophy winner last year, and he's still good. There's something wrong with USC. I have a feeling that Lincoln Riley's like. I would put money that Lincoln Riley's gone after this year. I'd put money he leaves to the NFL.
If he leaves, I can't see him going to another college gig.
I said to the NFL.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying I agree with you. I can't
Yeah.
see him leaving Southern Cal for another college job because that would make no sense.
But would he leave Southern Cal to stay in Southern Cal and be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you had that chance, I think you take it just because Justin Herbert. I mean, you've got a franchise.
And that guy's about ready to get fired.
What about the Rams?
They're not going to fire McVay.
They're not going to fire McVay unless
I don't think they fire McVay, but I think McVay throws his hands up at some point and says, "I'm going to take a break."
I could see that because he's a young dude. He could take 5 years off and then come back.
He's had a kid.
Yeah, I could see that. I actually heard rumors that he might do that.
But I don't think that's a good job in terms of personnel because you've got an aging quarterback.
But what if that team drafted? I don't know.
Caleb Williams?
They'd have to trade up a lot to get him. But let's say they drafted Michael Penix.
I don't know.
Yeah, Penix and Daniels were the only two that were on the midseason team for quarterback.
Who was the other one?
Daniels.
How
about draft Jaden Daniels? He's a little small for a pro quarterback. I don't love him as a pro quarterback. How about
I'm not a fan of many people right now in college saying that they're a franchise quarterback in the NFL. Maybe a couple, but not a lot. You're going to have more people taken in the first round as quarterback that are not going to pan out.
Drake May.
Yeah.
But Drake May won't be there at
They'll trade up. They'll finagle something. It depends. If they want the package.
I think what really could happen is Brandon Staley gets fired. I mean, he's only 2-3 right now. If he doesn't make the playoffs, and then that's a perfect job for Lincoln Riley. Or Jim Harbaugh.
How many more years of Justin Herbert do you want to waste?
I know.
And I know he's a young kid, but I mean,
Yeah.
Think about Garnett and Lillard in Minnesota and Portland before they finally each got traded. So,
but I think the kicker is if Mike McCarthy at some point says, I don't want to coach Cowboys anymore, that's Lincoln Riley's perfect job.
Yeah, he's from there. But he's 4-2. They'd have to, if they barely make the playoffs and lose in the first round. I don't think Mike
Jones has taken lesser people before.
I think Lincoln Riley's an upgrade.
Well, I don't know if he's the best you could get either, though, is what I'm saying.
He's a great offensive mind who works well with quarterbacks. And if you're a great offensive mind who can work good with quarterbacks, like franchise players, I think you can be a pretty successful NFL. I think he's more suited for the NFL than he is for college. Because for college, you have to be able to get a whole roster. And he's been really good with one side of the ball. Yep. Like explosive offenses, Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, but he's been so off on the defense that he's never been able to have a team that's be able to compete for winning the national title. And I just don't see it. I've seen him at Oklahoma and I've seen it at USC. It's all same thing. Amazing quarterback, amazing skill, talent, and offensive game plan and offensive team. But then the defensive side of the ball is non-existent. And I just don't think it's going to change. Whereas in the NFL, he can be all of that. And then you have NFL coordinators for the defensive side. Yep. Go get a great coordinator to do it. And it's not much about culture in the NFL because, you're constantly trading players. You need to have a good culture, but it's not about like building a culture around like that can mobilize teams and recruits. It's more like you handle the defense, I handle the offense. I have a franchise quarterback. I call plays. We win. It's just a different ball game. And I just think Lincoln Riley is like a Sean McVay, and Sean McVay won a Super Bowl. So, just my opinion. I could be wrong.
But I think Chadwell to USC.
I think Jamie Chadwell would wait for a Southern job.
It's a Southern job, Southern Cal. I mean, how can you get any more Southern than that?
No, USC will go after James Franklin.
What about Josh Heupel? I love how we're getting into this again. How about Josh Heupel for USC?
We did do this last time. Josh Heupel that'd be kind of an interesting fit. I don't know.
I see him going to Oklahoma more.
I could definitely see him going to Oklahoma.
Well, I don't know when you're firing Brent Venables, though.
True, but Josh Heupel definitely surprised he was not a little more in the mix when that job opened up. I hardly heard anything about Heupel.
Right.
You heard Venables from the beginning. I don't know who else I heard, but it was Venables pretty much from the start.
Yeah.
But I think Venables is doing a pretty good job. So I let's not fire him, guys.
Well, he needed to after last year.
Yeah. He might make the playoffs this year.
Should make the playoffs.
Let's see what happens. We'll see.
We'll see. But I got to go. We could talk all night. Good luck this week. I'm looking forward to whooping you guys and pick 'em. It felt like me and you, Bob, had the same picks. So maybe I guess if we both do good.
Well, no, I think the picks we differed on, you won, I didn't. So.
But this week we're like, didn't it seem like we were picking the same ones, Alan?
It did.
It did seem like it, yep.
And actually, Alan, you were picking the same as us quite a bit. So I don't know if there's going to be as much differentiation. You always try to pick a little different. You're like, you'll stop yourself and be like, wait, I know that the whole roster's in the grave, but I just can't can't be going in line with Bob and Tyler that much. So I am picking the blind kids of Vanderbilt Valley against Alabama to pull off the upset.
If
then
you're gonna at least say it, it would be Granville State they would play. You gotta at least get that right if you're gonna try to talk crap. If you can't do that, then you're wasting your time, sir. Nice try. But if we were gonna try to find you outside of here, how would we do that?
At TurnerCast. And I'm really rooting for South Carolina this weekend. Bob's rooting for them. He picked them to pick the upset of the weekend.
Go Gamecocks.
All right, gentlemen.
We'll see.
I'll see you at next Flames game. No, I'll see you
Yeah.
on here. I'll probably see you on here before then.
Just hit me up. I live in Lynchburg, so I'll just meet you on the corner.
All right. See you, homie.
Take care. Tyler Turner, everybody.
I've now become homie.
Very nice, sir. Very
Nice
nice.
is
But I
good.
mean, if he's going to do an impression, he needs to make sure he gets the school right. Okay, I could care less if he's going to do an impression, but if you can't at least get the school right that they played, that's where I have the problem, sir.
I don't think you're impersonatable, though. I mean, it's not like, like, I don't know if you heard, there's a couple impressions going on of a current wrestler and Will Sasso, former Mad TV guy. They do an impression of Jesse Ventura.
That's right. I remember hearing about that.
But I mean, like, you and I don't have a distinct enough voice to where, A, people don't care. B,
Exactly. That's
You know.
okay. It's okay.
so
But no, that was Tyler Turner trying to do an impression of me. He kind of failed at it, but he tried. I give him props for trying, but if you can't get the school right when you're trying to give an impression of me, that's a little bit of a problem. So, Bob, one thing before we get into just talk about some of the different games that happened last week, I realized that we never talked about the passing of Dick Butkus.
yes.
So, real quick, I mean, he was basically the nastiest linebacker that you would get hit by, I guess you could say, before Ray Lewis. Because a
I would
lot of
say-
people talk about wanting to get hit by Ray Lewis,
Right.
but when you got hit by Butkus, you'd be praying to get hit by Ray Lewis, it felt like.
I would almost call Butkus the nastiest defensive player in the history of the NFL. And I mean, he went to Illinois. So I mean, really, he
Yes,
never
he
left.
did.
He really never left the
Mhm.
state. Dick Butkus, I think, is a guy who is revered throughout his career, and actually one of the few people that from professional sports actually went to acting and did not fail miserably.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, he could have done even better. But unfortunately for him, he had knee problems when he was playing.
were you talking about better at football or better at acting?
Better at football.
Yeah. And I mean, still very, very good. Again, there's a video out there on YouTube, and I had the VHS. I think it's from like the 80s or 90s. The NFL's 100 toughest players. Guess who was ranked number 1? Dick Butkus.
He'd probably have to put Jack Youngblood at number 2 or number 3.
Youngblood was in there, but not that high.
Okay, I'm surprised because I mean he played the Super Bowl with a broken leg, but that's just beside the point. For
Outside
now.
of that, I don't think they're the moments that he had, because the
True, yeah.
toughness was not just, it wasn't just ranked for injuries and stuff like that, but it was also ranked like, Ronnie Lott was in the top 10, and Ronnie
Oh
Lott
yeah,
came
easily.
away from like and this is just talking their NFL. This is not talking their college. But
Mhm.
Ronnie Lott never had like, some major injury that he roughed it through or played through. And I mean, you got to think too, this list had 100 people on there.
He cut his
That's
finger.
not the easiest thing.
Cut his finger off, I thought.
I think so. But I mean, he didn't have like, but I mean, you and I are diehard sports fans, and we're saying we think he had that finger injury. But
I'm pretty sure he did.
Well, but you get where I'm
That's-
going. It's not like Ronnie Lott lost a finger in the second quarter. He played if he lost a hand, that would be different.
True.
He lost
Okay,
use
fair
of his
enough.
arm. But I mean, and I'm not trying to make fun of him, But I mean, it's not like the Jack Youngblood. I'm playing on a broken leg. Give me 2 aspirin. Johnny Unitas was in the top 10, and there's a story because this is before the concussion protocol, obviously. And
Oh yeah.
I think Unitas got hit in the face, and he just had blood rushing out of his nose. So one of his linemen grabbed a clump full of dirt and just threw it up there to try to get the bleeding to stop. And the trainer came out and said to Unitas, "You're out of here." Unitas like, "No way." So the concussion test at that point was, read me the scoreboard. If you could read the scoreboard, you were good to go. I'll have to see if I can find the list a little bit more just to give it some, not credence, but just to kind of find the list a little bit more. Youngblood was in the top 20, I want to say. I don't think Art Shell made the list.
I was waiting for that.
It was coming.
Of course. Looks like the last one they did for that, the last article for it was 15. Back in 2011.
What are we talking about?
The last time that they did a report article on that was in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, I already don't like this list.
I think we're probably on a different list.
Probably because I don't even see. I'm going to the top 20 and Butkus isn't even on here. So
let's see. I'm trying to see. They don't have a list. They just show people, and it goes from like 42 to 12. So I mean, it's not like a true countdown type list. I'll send you the video because it's about a 55-minute video because it was just a home video at that point.
okay. Let's see. But yeah, that's neither here nor there, but it just was something that Dick Butkus just for how he played and the hits he would put on people. It was just something that how he was with the Bears.
Yep.
Because I mean, at times the Bears weren't even that good, but because he was there playing linebacker and they wanted to see how he would hit somebody and just what would happen, they would go to the games just for that. He was worth the price of admission. So, was a shame that he died, and rest in peace for him and his family. Our in memoriam segment 2 weeks late. Now, one thing I did see was last week Brock Bowers got hurt for Georgia. I thought that was a pretty big loss for them.
Yep.
Because, well, he in some ways I feel like he's been their offense at Georgia. Granted, he hasn't scored all the touchdowns, but he's been the one that's made a lot of the plays.
I'm still
And it
waiting for
just-
Georgia to look good. Because I don't think Georgia's looked good.
Well, I agree, but I mean, that's why I'm saying that with how it is,
Sure.
it's frustrating to watch because you know that they can do so much better, but if they don't do it right, they just choke. And it's frustrating because this is going to be the year that's going to be the toughest one for them because they've lost so many players. So it's seeing how they do. And I mean, if they pull it out, that's great, but they're definitely coming up to some of the toughest parts of their season.
Well, and I think a lot of people think that, you can just turn it on and, pull it out just because when you lose a lot of people, you can rebuild. But, I think if you look in other levels of sport, you see where sometimes you have to go out and I know it's pro versus college, but in pro, you got to kind of make that free agent signing. In college, you've got to find that piece to replace a piece, not, we hope he can fill in, but sometimes you got to have a 5-star replace a 5-star. You can't just say, well, the 3-star is really good. He'll fit in with the rest of the team because we have so many other 5-stars around.
True, very true. Also, one other thing, just want to make sure about. Actually, just coming up on ESPN, I'm seeing on the headlines. Mike Boynton, who's the Oklahoma State head coach, they were banned from the 2022 NCAA tournament for his connection with the FBI's 2017 investigation into college basketball corruption. He says the NCAA owes his program an apology after Kansas last week became the latest school to avoid major penalties stemming from a scandal.
Yep, Kansas had to vacate. And that's the other thing too, Alan. Anytime, like when they say these schools have to vacate their Final Four banner or they have to vacate this or vacate that, nobody's using that little thing from Men in Black and erasing my memory. So to me, said school still made the Final Four. I'm not putting the 5th team up there and saying, oh, but if you go back for the trivia at some point, you might have to.
Yeah. And apparently it's because of the IARP, the Independent Accounting Resolution Process, which is defined as an independent process that reviews and determines whether there are violations of NCAA bylaws and select compact and infractions cases in Division I athletics. They ruled that the pro Jayhawks and Self won't face any more punishment, but they didn't issue any postseason bans or significant penalties in the cases it adjudicated for LSU, Louisville, Arizona, and NC State. All the other schools that were tied to the investigation. Oklahoma State just chose to work with the NCAA over the IARP in this case. So, even though Kansas did self-impose a suspension on him, because they went to the IRP, it was reduced from a level 1 to a level 3 violation. He said that even though his team faces a severe penalty, Boynton said he does not want other schools to incur additional punishments. I don't want Kansas to be more severely punished. I don't think the kids on their season either. They didn't have anything to do with what happened before. Did the kids at LSU or Arizona? But none of them have been banned from the postseason. We were. That was the unfortunate part.
Yep.
Makes sense. Yep. And I mean, that's something that's always going to be an issue where people are going to voice their opinions, good or bad.
Yep.
But one thing while I have you here, sir, I just was taking a look at the newest poll for the year for men and women basketball. Just released their polls.
Yep.
So for the women, you have LSU number 1, UConn number 2, Iowa number 3, UCLA number 4, Utah number 5, South Carolina number 6, Ohio State number 7, Virginia Tech number 8, Indiana number 9, Notre Dame number 10, Tennessee number 11, number 12 Ole Miss, number 13 Texas, number 14 Maryland, number 15 Stanford, number 16 North Carolina, number 17 Louisville, number 18 Florida State, number 19 Baylor, number 20 Colorado, number 21 Southern Cal, number 22 Creighton, number 23 Illinois, number 20 State, number 25 Mississippi State. That's going to be interesting seeing what happens.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of pressure on a lot of people and a lot of teams this year. Of course, Caitlin Clark can Lightning. I don't want to say Lightning strike twice again, but how does that work? Is she the top player in the WNBA at some point? Virginia Tech, number 8 in the nation. Can the Hokies live up to that after going to the Final Four last year? A lot of questions.
Now, I saw that the AP yesterday on the 17th. You know how they had a Senate hearing on Tuesday where the NCAA president Charlie Baker, apparently the Big Ten commissioner Tony Petitti, and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick were among the witnesses in front of the Judiciary Committee. Apparently, what Charlie Baker shifted the focus on college sport needs for the possibility of athletes being deemed employees of their schools and away from federal legislation to regulate how they can be compensated for their fame.
It's such a sticky thing we've gotten into with the NILs and the paying some athletes. That's gonna have to be handled at some point before it gets out of control entirely.
But I mean, it's just how they're saying that they're going to try to make them employees.
Right. Good luck.
That just sounds really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just because they're going to try to do that. Bob, that's like saying you and me are going to become employees of Liberty.
Right.
Because we had done things occasionally over there on radio. That's basically what it sounds like.
Yep.
Which that's about the stupidest thing I've heard. Because this new NCAA president, ever since he became president, it feels like he's been stepping in something almost every time when he said something.
Well, he wasn't put into his predecessors didn't do him any help on that one either.
Well, true, Mark Emmert dropped the ball every time. He was horrible. Unfortunately, like I said before, because Miles Brand died.
Yeah.
If Miles Brand hadn't died, he did not mince words. And he was a disciplinarian. So, like, if things were happening now when he was there,
right,
I guarantee he would have taken control of it immediately. he would not have let things like this happen. Whereas Emmert's, he basically just doesn't care.
Right.
And so that's why finally when he left, now you're seeing because he didn't care, they're having to try to fix it. And instead of having a leader who would be able to help, they have who they have now, somebody who's overwhelmed. And because he came from, because he was a former governor of the state of Massachusetts, that's why he wants to make it seem like making the athletes employees will make it better.
Right.
Although the scary thing is, this is the 10th hearing on college sports to be held on Capitol Hill since 2020.
That's a short time for all those hearings.
And nothing's been done since. And I mean, it's
Well,
like,
that's
come on.
normal for the government.
Yeah, I mean, considering we all were having to watch to see if a shutdown happens every other day. So, I mean, it's just pathetic that as they're trying to look to the government for help,
Yeah.
you and me have a better chance of doing college football for one game together on
Yep.
ESPN.
Yep. No, you're right.
So, yeah, but I'm not holding my breath on that. So,
Me either.
last thing, real quick, why don't we do the men's college basketball rankings as well, since they came out? We have Kansas #1, your Blue Devils #2, Purdue #3, Michigan State #4, Marquette #5, UConn #6, Houston #7, Creighton #8, Tennessee #9, Florida Atlantic #10, Gonzaga #11, Arizona #12, Miami #13, Arkansas #14, Texas A&M #15, Kentucky #16, San Diego State #17, Texas #18, North Carolina #19, Baylor #20, USC #21, Villanova #22, St. Mary's #23, Alabama #24, and Illinois #25. I mean, the rankings look pretty good, and I would say that even though we're gonna a lot of college football coming up, it's gonna be a decent season, and just
Oh, yeah.
it'll be good to see, and just how we'll figure out how it's gonna go, and then before you know it, we'll be getting ready to do our March Madness picks again.
Yep.
That and another time, you and me and Tyler need to figure out about that questions you were talking about.
That may need to be a bonus episode at some point, like a standalone just for, because I hate to take away real time with that. I did one, basically, it's going to be one round of Jeopardy and a final Jeopardy question.
Okay.
That's how I've already got all the categories. So I think I wrote 6 categories, 100 to 500, and then final Jeopardy.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, me and Tyler have to discuss about doing that at some point because it'd be very, very interesting. I'm curious about it.
I think it'll be fun. I have balanced out the questions to where I did not favor Oregon or Ohio State in the questions, but I think it would be a fun time had by all.
Good. We'll definitely work at that, and
I tried to go in more like, I'm not trying to tip away anything, but I tried to go more current-ish than going back to like the 70s, 60s, 80s, stuff like that. So I tried to keep everything, more since people have been born type of thing. Even though in Jeopardy, if you watch, sometimes you'll hear a question about, the 1500s, and Nobody was born. Well, I mean, people were born. They're just not allowed now to answer the Jeopardy questions.
I understand. No, I know what you're saying. So
But yeah, I
I mean,
think
we'll
it'll be
definitely okay. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
definitely discuss and figure out a time where we can do that as a standalone.
You know me, if I can write up trivia questions, that's my sweet spot. So
Yeah.
I had fun doing it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because we'll figure that out and then we'll plan it out so that way we can set up that episode and see what happens between me and Tyler. Since well, I can tell you will have such a hard time moderating it and seeing what happens.
Serious bragging rights on the line here. I mean, this is one of those to where I don't feel like the winner would ever let the non-winner live it down.
We'll see. We'll see. So I'm curious about it. So we'll go down that road another day. But sir, if we were going to make the mistake of trying to find you outside of here, how would we do so?
The Sports Buffet on Twitter is the best spot to go. I have not shut down other things, but I'm much less active on the Facebook page that I have, the YouTube page, and the Instagram. So Twitter is your best bet.
Okay.
Like you, Alan,
For
I'm
me-
active on Twitter. I'm heavy duty on that Twitter.
Yep. No, I am. I'm on there more than I was. So you know what? I'm working at it slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. Speaking of that, I am on Twitter at Alan F West and on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at Alan.West.46. We have the Jersey boys here tomorrow, but this has been the top 25 rundown on the Sportscast. I'm Alan. He's Bob. Have a good week, everybody.